Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm not sure it's coming through on Facebook yet or YouTube. It's usually, oh, here we go. I think it's just going live on Facebook, Miro, as we speak. And it should be going live in about 15 or 20 seconds on YouTube. So if someone could very kindly type in the chat that you can see the video, okay, and also see the screen, that'd be absolutely brilliant. So we just know that we're not speaking to ourselves. That'd be brilliant news. Yeah, so just put your first name, last name in there and introduce yourself. Be fantastic. And at least we know everything is working as it should do. Miro, is everything looking okay on YouTube at the moment? And
Facebook's fine.
Yeah.
Yes, YouTube is fine as well.
Good, brilliant. Okay, lovely. All right, and you'll keep an eye on the Fast Start group as well. Yes, lovely. Thank you very much. I should never question Miro because Miro always knows the answers, so which is a good thing. Right, I can see we've got a few people join us already. Thank you very much. There's Miro saying welcome to someone. And then I'm delighted you've been able to join us again today. And thanks for being so vocal yesterday. It was really appreciated. Stuart, welcome. Also, thank you very much. Stuart, you may be better to switch to the page, actually. Don't close this one down, but just open up another tab and just go to the Facebook page instead. So you can, Miro's actually put the address in the top of the feed there, but if you go to businessgrowthbureau.com/YouTube-live, it will redirect to, sorry, that's the YouTube option, or you could just go to businessgrowthbureau.com/Facebook and it will take you straight to the page, because at least that way we know you're coming up. So, right, great. Someone did point out yesterday, actually, with the competitions, that there was a slight delay, actually, between the platforms, which I've forgotten about. So when we do draw the competitions, we need to allow a bit of extra time for the time difference between the platforms. So who else have we got here? We've got Mandeep with us. Nice to see you today. We've also got Ali Carruthers. Is that right, Muriel? I'll let you select a few people here and just introduce them.
I can't see what you're seeing, Rupert.
You just go to the comments.
Yeah, I'm looking there. Okay.
Yeah, got it. And we're about 2 minutes before we officially start. So give it a 2-minute countdown. And yeah, so I guess everyone's having good weather today. No one's had any thunderstorms, I take it. So down south, it's certainly about 28, 29 degrees, I believe, at the moment. So Miro, can you see the comments there? Are they coming through okay on your side?
Yeah.
Good, excellent. Okay, so we've got Lucy with us as well. Welcome, Lucy. And good, excellent. We'll get started in about another minute and a half. So, Miro, what have you been doing today? A nice 2-minute walk along the beach today.
No. Well, obviously I did lots of Business Growth Bureau work, but I did also manage to make a homemade steak and kidney pie.
Nice.
Yeah.
Except I'm vegetarian, so I don't eat it.
I know.
Right, no thunderstorms in mid-Wales. Okay, so who else we got here? Pierre Webb from Sweden. Yeah, welcome, Pierre. Actually, I did see your comments after yesterday, so thank you for that. We'll be starting in 1 minute, so let me just change the banner as we speak. Here we go. And who else have we got here?
Okay, let's have a look.
Okay. Right, it's 30 degrees in Cambridge. Wow, that's pretty hot, isn't it?
Right, are we seeing Tony's comments? No, I don't think we are we?
Okay.
No, okay, let me tell him.
Yeah, if people got problems, don't go in via the Facebook group, go in via the page. And as a quick reminder on that, let me just bring that up quickly. So if you go in either by this URL here, so if you go to Business Growth, just leave the tab open or at the moment, open up another tab and go to businessgrowthbureau.com/Facebook. That will actually redirect to the page and your comments will start to come up in the feed, so we'll be able to pick them out. If Facebook's proving problematic, skip over to YouTube, and there's an easy way of getting to us. If you go to that URL there, which is businessgrowthbureau.com/YouTube live, you should be absolutely fine. So I think without further ado, we'll get cracking, and obviously I'll let you monitor the feed from now on, if that's okay.
Yep.
Okay, so let me drop this in. There we go. So today is about your 12 pillars to grow you and have a successful business. Obviously got lovely Muriel Gibbons with me today, as always. And what we're going to be talking about as well for the rest of the week. So over the last 2 days, we've covered market insights and returning to the new normal, what that looks like. We've also discussed the importance of resilience and building your tribes. And today's about 12 pillars to growing a successful business. Tomorrow we're discussing a social selling blueprint for sales success. And we've got a LinkedIn bonus session. And on Friday, we've got the action plan, which we're going to look at, do a bit of a review of this year, and also predict what we believe is going to happen over the next 12 months as best as we can. And obviously, we've got the competitions and prizes, which you know about. So again, we've already talked about, so let's try and get my mouse pointer back, the option of being able to join us. So if you're having problems, go via one of these other options here. The page, Facebook page option, and the YouTube option are the most reliable. The group one seems to be a bit problematic for some people. Okay, so just jot down those URLs in case you need a fallback. Okay. So moving on from there, a quick reminder of what we were talking about as well. Fundamentally, we're about helping to grow you and grow your business. And for those people who really want to scale their business, we'd be very keen to help in those areas as well. And of course, we can explain about the social selling system. Everything revolves around, of course, your potential customers and what your products look like in your markets. At the end of the day, if you're not clear about your product portfolio, what your marketing mix looks like, and who your customers are, you're always going to perpetually struggle. But it's just worth bearing that in mind. So I've just lost my mouse pointer again. I'm going to try and deal with this. Yeah, so just a point of interest, if you could very kindly put in the chat what you enjoyed about yesterday, it would be absolutely fantastic. So just put in give some feedback, and also if you've got any killer questions for today, do let us know. We're always keen to help you in any way we can. So just drop that in, and we'll do our best to deal with that, answer those for you. Let me just switch this banner off. There we go. Right. So, Muriel, any particular points coming out already? We want to.
No, not yet. Just
okay.
Everybody being very polite and saying hello.
Okay, good. All right, I can see we've still got people logging in. The numbers are rapidly going up now, so which is brilliant. Now, what we're going to do while we're just waiting for people to put those answers in is I'm going to just explain what today's about. So the first two pillars are really fundamentally about you are the foundation. At the end of the day, nothing happens without you. And the other 10 pillars are really about your business, and fundamentally your business is built on you. If you're the CEO or the founder, I know it's stating the obvious, but at the end of the day, that's really important. Now, what we're going to be talking about here is about your why, your motivation, your personal 5-year plan and strategies put in place for that. We'll be looking at your business 5-year plan, and we're not talking about something really heavy and meaty here, talk about something very practical. Your brand assets, your products, your markets, and we'll also be giving an overview of what should be in your marketing plan and social selling blueprint. Be looking at your leaders and teams, your systems, your finances, and what knowing your numbers actually means. And we've got a few little surprises in there for you. And your assets, your intellectual property, and what you could do to protect the unprotectable. And we'll also be discussing scalability as well. Now, looking at the first part, which is everything that really revolves around you, this is really about, as it would expect, about you, your family, your motivation, and what your fundamental beliefs are, perhaps your spirituality, and if we've got a good understanding of what your why is, what really drives you, what your strengths are, and also what makes you happy. If you can try and get all those parts well aligned, then that's fantastic. And we all know of a fantastic guy who's written a brilliant book. We talked about him, Simon Sinek. If you haven't got that book, then you should really do it. And I think it's all about the why. If I got the title wrong, if someone just put it in the chat, that'd be really appreciated. It's a really good book, and it actually will really make you think about certain parts that you should really be doing in your personal life and how that could be applied successfully in business. And then your personal 5-year plan is basically what you're going to put in place to impact you moving forwards. Also, how you're going to get on that journey, who you're going to surround yourself with, what your plan is going to look like over the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. Now, I know 3 years and 5 years sounds like a very long time when we're dealing with the current situation. But at the end of the day, if you actually know, if you imagine your postcode, your sat nav, if you put a postcode in there, now you may go off route plenty of times, but in reality, if you your sat nav will always finally get you there, even if you go off path a number of times en route. So what we're talking about here about a personal 5-year plan is something that's more of a living, breathing document, or it could be a series of post-its on your notice board, or it could be a series of flowcharts or mind maps. But just think about what's really important for you and what's important for your family, and crucially make sure that what you're doing in business is very, very well aligned, because at the end of the day, running a business can be very tough. And if your personal values and what you want out of life are well aligned with business, then the chances are you'll stick with it, even if life does get pretty tough. So it's just worth considering. Now, in terms of your business 5-year plan, really, again, it goes back to your beliefs. And the question around that, one question I would ask you particularly is your business bigger than you? Okay. Now, think about that very carefully, because a lot of people will say they actually want to grow their business. But in reality, if you drill down deep, actually, a lot of people are very happy with status quo, or they only want to grow at a fairly slow and steady rate. And it may be that people start to get quite uncomfortable when growth starts to happen too much. Maybe they just really want to keep the business nice and small just for themselves. And that's perfectly solid and that's perfectly fine. But it's just important to understand that. It's also about, again, being aware of your blind spots, your strengths and weaknesses, and understanding the positioning of your business as well. So, for example, if BMW started to sell a particular car very, very cheaply, then you would probably be very concerned and actually would have the effect of undermining your brand. So it's just worth looking at that. And then it's about considering about your board and your management structure internally. And if you're only a one-person business, it's about who you've got around you. Now, we'll talk about these things a lot more a bit later on. I'll be talking about your business plan legacy. Now, I'll come back to the business plan part in just a moment. But the legacy part, really, there's 2 parts to that. The first part is what you want your business to be known for. Are you building your business more as a social enterprise? In fact, there's a gentleman who dropped us a really nice email today and very kindly shared a few things with us called Leroy. I won't say any more than that, but let's put it this way. He's running a social enterprise, very driven by a sense of social purpose and a power for good. And that's important. If that's what you want to do, then that needs to be built into your plan. And your legacy. Now, legacy can be about creating money and wealth, but it also can be about what impact you have. And they don't need to be mutually exclusive. You can do things so they're actually aligned. And then going back to your business plan again, what we're talking about here is not a big, fat, living document, which once you've done, you put away in the drawer and never read again. What we're talking about here is something which is perhaps no more than 2 or 3 pages, or it might be a series of mind maps or flowcharts, and make that a living, breathing document which gets continually updated. Now, obviously, if you're trying to raise finance, and you're trying to raise finance for a bank, the way you would write your plan for that is very different as to if you're raising finance to raise equity finance. And the reason for it is a bank is very risk averse. And typically, if you don't have the security, forget about these other government schemes going on at the moment from them. If you typically don't have the security, they typically don't want to know, they don't want to help you. If they're after real security, peace of mind, everything else. Whereas if it's an equity investor, a lot of equity investors will know for every 10 businesses they invest in, they know that probably only 1 or 2 will be real rising stars. There'll be 5 or 6 in the middle, which probably won't go very far. okay, and there'll be another 3 or 4 which actually will perhaps will become effectively dormant or may actually cease trading. Okay, so equity investors tend to look for very high growth and high rewards, and obviously there are government schemes out there as well, which will help businesses to raise equity finance. And I'm not talking about the things we talked about the last few days, like bounce back loans, but for example, is the Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme, if I've got the name right, and also the Enterprise Investment Scheme. If Keith is on here today, by the way. So Keith, it would be your man for that. He knows about everything to do with funding and everything else that goes with that. So let's have a little bit of a pause just for a moment. Muriel, any questions or feedback that we'd like?
There is a question, but feedback. What do people like about yesterday? Ellen liked hearing about the books.
Great.
Yeah. Ali liked the tribal leader insight.
Great.
This is quite a nice one, actually. Alan liked the balance of the presenting and questions and the laid back style, yet very focused.
Okay, that's lovely. Well, thank you.
And one more, Daniel liked the idea of sell yourself, then the company, then the product.
Right, excellent. Okay, and the other thing I'd add to that is always be authentic, which is the
Daniel has asked, he's looking at searching for concrete things he can do to win clients.
Right, now, is that come up in today's feed?
Yes, it has.
Okay, can we bring up this? Well, if as these come up, we can bring on the screen, that'd be great. Daniel, just to answer that question, so it might take a moment for Muriel to find your point. We will go into that a lot more tomorrow, and we will touch on some of these things there as well. Right, Muriel, I'll let you look at some other comments we can drop in just a moment. What we'll do is we'll continue, and we'll have a little break again at 10 minutes or so, and try and pick out a few points. So let's just move on from here. So the next part really is to do with, get my mouse back again. It's really to do with brand assets. But before we do that, I just want to share a little bit of a case study for this. Anthony, are you with us today, by the way? Anthony, by the way, is the gentleman with the cravats around his neck on the right-hand side in that picture. But if Anthony's here today, just a big thank you to Anthony, and also his business partner, Dom. Now, really interesting, actually, because when we introduced this new service in September last year, basically around the 12-pillar framework, Anthony and Dom have been friends since the age of 4, and they're both now in their 40s. Dom, very family focused, got 2 children. Anthony, willfully independent, but in a relationship. And Anthony, very driven. Dominic, very laid back, but 2 really good friends who've known each other for a long time. And what's been really nice, it's been an absolute pleasure to work with both of them and their team. And that was a lot more about helping to synchronize their goals and their desires for their business and for their families. And then we've worked with the individual team members there. So if Anthony's on today, just say hello. I'd love to see you. I think you were on possibly yesterday. So if we're moving on a little bit from there now. So this is really about being here to support you and around your brand assets. Now, the brand assets really are about looking at your vision and values, fairly obvious on that one. It's also about your mission and your sense of purpose, okay? Now, Barnaby did a great talk about 2 weeks ago, which was caused a lot of laughter, actually, because he was rather knocking Simon Sinek, not directly, I'd have to say, but Barnaby was very focused and very driven. And then we started talking about purpose and realized we were talking about the same thing. So it was very entertaining and lots of good fun. But it's very important your sense of wild purpose is aligned, and that's reflected in the way you project yourself to the outside world. And a really good thing to look at there is also the United Nations 17 global goals. Okay, and if you can build your business around one or several of those global goals, then that's better to grow your business with a bit of social conscience, which is good. And you need to look at, as part of that, the culture of your organization, the look and feel, how you project it to the outside world. Now, one of the things we're well aware of was that we desperately need to re-engineer parts of our website, It was very focused on track a couple of years ago. But like anything else, it's like the Severn Bridge. The world moves on, and you realise you need to do something about it. So look at what's in your business that you should be doing to bring yourself on point, as it were. Don't let it detract you from focusing on trying to drive in new opportunities or new business, because otherwise you're risking going inwards again. We're always talking about going outwards, but it's just worth bearing in mind. Now, there's one extra thing I put in here, which you wouldn't normally fall under brand assets, but I feel it's really important, and that's your ambassadors, okay? Now, something that really taught me a lot about 12 years ago when I had this other organization, because initially, literally started off, in fact, it started off in this room we're in now. Now, I know it looks like in Greenwich Park. This photograph was taken here in February, and that's put it as a backdrop. But this room that actually we're working from now was where that was conceptualized. And it was a business that actually had no money to start off. And we realized we needed to be able to partner up with other organizations to really scale and grow. So what we did is we actually started to speak to different insurance companies. And also what we did is we started to liaise with lots of vets and rescue centres and charities and other organisations as well. And we created an offer in that particular case, which was completely free, but people could actually plug in and upgrade to it. And what we worked really hard on was building all those relationships. So over about 3 or 4 years, we ended up with 6 major insurance partnerships. We had relationships with several major retailers. We had managed to attract loads of national TV and press coverage. I'll give you all the good bits here. We did have problems I touched on a couple of days ago. But the other thing is that we also managed to partner with literally thousands, in fact, about 3,000 or 4,000 of veterinary surgeries and other allied similar organizations. And what ended up happening is we end up with effectively almost several different tribes or movements with all the same common aim, and that was a real love for pets, okay? So try and find a common goal that people will plug into around your business, and think of how you can actually make everyone in those areas feel good about that relationship. So they become your brand ambassadors. Now, there is another part to it as well, is a lot of people have real trouble targeting their ideal clients. Now, we're going to talk a lot of this more about this tomorrow. But in the context I'm talking about here is, let's say you want to reach the CEO of a company, okay? Now, CEOs quite often are very busy people. They may even be surrounded by their gatekeepers. If you're talking about a big bank, say RBS, for example, I know in their chief executive's office, they've got 200 people just in that department alone, okay? So do you think you can get to speak to the CEO? Almost certainly not. But what you can do is put in strategies in place where you can build relationships with individual people within those organizations. And what you do is you build relationships up with those people so they actually want to sell you from within. So just think about that. We class those as brand ambassadors, okay? 2 different types really there, but well worth thinking about. Now, I don't want to give them some bit of food for thought. So now an example of how you can make yourself very busy and oversubscribed. I will say this was taken on a very cold early February day. And of course, no one was in lockdown then. But this particular tea rooms was absolutely crowded out. Now, obviously, if they tried to take away the experience by moving some of the artifacts in there, or pushing the tables really close together, or not giving excellent service, would people be queuing outside? Definitely not, okay? But the thing there is that because they've created really a real destination or an experience, people will actually want to go into that place. Now, of course, we are, as Barney highlighted a couple of weeks ago, the strange things we're all having to queue at the moment because of social distancing. But the point I'm trying to make here is, now that's obviously a retail example, but just imagine with your business, what you really need to be doing is putting yourself in a position where you're actually oversubscribed with potential customers. And the reason being is you're almost invariably the unexpected does happen. And also if you get yourself so you're oversubscribed, then you'll also be able to be a bit more selective about those people that you go to serve. So I'm not sure how much use that's been so far. We're going to move on to a few other parts in just a moment around your products. But Muriel, a bit of a break at this point. Any particular feedback?
Yeah, I'm looking for Marge's comment actually. I think it's this one. As per, yeah, okay.
Right. Yeah. So Robert Kiyosaki. Now that's a really interesting one. Difference between self-employed and having a business. Being self-employed means the business revolves around you and cannot survive without you. It also is very hard to exit from such a business. Having a business means you can remove yourself. You just bring the rest up, Meryl. I can't see the rest of it.
I haven't touched it.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. There we go. Having a business means that you can remove yourself from the business and still survive. What is it? What is your take on this? I 100% agree. In fact, he was a major inspiration to me, Robert Kiyosaki. In fact, there's a brilliant 15-minute video on YouTube, which is based around, I think, the cash flow quadrant. Now, it's an interesting one because most solopreneurs, which of course accounts for, certainly if it's limited companies, about 3.2 million businesses in the UK, I've got businesses which revolves around them, and as a consequence, cannot survive without them. Okay, and it is about putting in a really good team around you. Now, what we will do is we'll perhaps get a bit close to this again a bit later on, because this is close to one of the other pillars. And
Mike Shepherd has actually replied to Marja by agreeing.
Yeah. Okay. Lovely. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mike, for that. That's really appreciated. Also, I'm just going to share Ellen's comment here as well about global goals. If you want to see that, those 17 global goals, Ellen, I think that's the part that takes you on to the United Nations part, Elaine. Hopefully that's right. And it's all about sustainable development, again, from the United Nations. Yeah. Did I get that wrong? Hopefully not. Yeah, okay. Right, so what we'll do is we'll pick out a few other good ones for me for a bit later on, and we'll come back to these and go from there. So moving on a little bit, what we're also you need to look at really is about your products. Now, we talk about having a balanced product portfolio, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. Everything really has to start with research first, okay? Now, it doesn't have to be research in terms of doing full focus groups and everything else like that. A lot of it can be based on speaking to people who are very knowledgeable in the markets that you want to serve, getting some really good insights, and speaking to potential customers. But certainly you should have at least a fairly basic comprehension of what that should look like. And then obviously you can then start to test and validate that. And then you should have a clear product proposition. Clearly you want to make it highly desirable, so you can make them so that people almost are wanting to wait for your service provision because they love it, or product proposition so much. Your product portfolio mix is really important. Your positioning. Again, if you try to position BMW, in fact, I think there's a phrase which was used outside, was that BMW likes to feel that they're reassuringly expensive. Now, I'm not sure that's still an expression they would use, but it's very true. If they suddenly discounted very heavily their cars, people would probably stop buying BMWs, not because they're not good cars, but they would actually harm their brand image. And then obviously that also helps determine product pricing. Now, there's lots of things you can do about product pricing, which is too big for today, and we can save for another time. But just to give you a bit of a feel, now this is what we've done with ourselves, so I'm not going to go into any great detail on this, but really what you want to have is a product for free, okay? So that would be, might be some video-based content you're creating, maybe a diagnostic tool, it may be some PDF, downloadable PDFs, it might even be some form of book or ebook, okay? Now, you also then ideally want to have what you class as a foundation product. And in effect, the foundation product will be a bit of a sprat to catch a mackerel, okay? Now, depending on your market, if your products or services are fairly low value, your foundation products might be anything from like £1 to £5, £10, £20, £50, whatever it may be, or dollars, the equivalent of. Whereas if you've got a higher value sale, let's say your average value of sale was actually £50,000 or £100,000 for a core product, it may be your foundation product is a £1,000 or £2,000 sale or a £10,000 sale. In that scenario, it's still a foundation product, okay? Then you've got your core products, which effectively are the cash cow, that are the parts that generate the bulk of the profitability in your business. And then you would have also products which are suitable for upsells, cross-sells, perhaps member-to-member get type offers, those type of things. If you've got a balanced product portfolio, what that basically means is you can find a way of bringing people into your ecosystem. So let's take, say, a larger corporate. Let's say they were happy to spend, wanting to spend a couple of £100,000 with you, okay? Now, would they spend, if they didn't know you from before, would they spend £200,000 with you straight off the bat if there was an existing relationship, or if you weren't very strongly recommended in? Probably not. So what you need to do is have a good foundation product there, which in that case might be a £5,000 or £10,000 proposition. So people can almost test drive you with a smaller piece of work. And that way it's almost certainly within someone's sign-off budget for you to sign it off for themselves. And guess what? A bit further down the line, 6 months down the line, 9 months down the line, you end up by getting this really juicy contract. And it can work the other way around. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. But I'm just saying you need to have this balanced product portfolio. So in our case, we obviously deliver a lot of content for free. And you're taking part in this challenge today, which is free. We've got the live streams, which are free. We share lots of value on content. And it's also because we feel it's the right thing to do, but it also helps to position us as being experts in that particular space. Okay. And obviously we've got a downloadable book, which you can also buy the tangible one as well. So a little bit of a feel there just to get your juices flowing. And especially for those of you who are in the coaching mentoring space, it's even more important now you've got a balanced product portfolio because you're competing with so many other people. Now, associated to that is really what you class as your markets. And really, this revolves around your awareness. How do people know you even exist? Being clear what your ideal client looks like, i.e. your client avatars or prospect avatars. You need to have an understanding of your competition and what that looks like. And if someone says to me there's no competition, to be frank, I almost certainly don't believe them, okay? Now, if there isn't any competition, it would typically tend to suggest that either they haven't researched the market properly, or alternatively, there's no desire for that type of product or service, okay? Now, it's not always true. There are always a few exceptions, okay? But you need to understand who your competition is. You also need to look at your differentiation. How can you make what you have different? And so it stands out in the marketplace. And that also ties with your positioning. In this case, it's more about your company positioning. Where do you want to be? For example, do we want to be particularly in the corporate space? Well, we indeed have worked with some corporates like PayPal Giving and some other organizations as well. But in real terms, it's not necessarily our sweet spot, okay? So just know what your sweet spot is, okay? That's really important. Then moving on from that, it's about understanding a lot more about your clients, your client avatars, and what markets that they're interested in. Again, we're going to be going into a lot more detail about this tomorrow. So it's just to give you a little bit of an insight. And then the next part around that really is to do with your marketing plan and your social selling blueprint. Okay, we'll come on to social selling blueprint in just a moment. Now, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail on this as well in just a second. But your marketing plan, that's a quick refresher of what I plan to cover in there. Yes, your marketing mix, and then considering what's free, almost free, and what's paid for. And the social selling blueprint, which again we'll go into much more detail tomorrow, is about your lead generation system, your prospect nurturing system. With that, it's about engaging with people so you can have meaningful conversations, not about overtly selling. I'll be discussing off these strategies tomorrow. And then having a really good sales optimization system. And with that, it's probably not come up very clearly on this slide, but what you really want to do is build on relationships so that those prospects are asking to have those conversations. You'll notice there's the word on the emphasis, asking, okay? And if you can get this social selling blueprint working properly, you can build predictability in there, have a repeatable system, which will give you consistent sales month in, month out. And so what you want to do is be looking at how you can get oversubscribed. And in terms of your what's free, almost free and paid for, we did touch on this a bit yesterday, and we'll be going into more detail again tomorrow. But there's a lot you can do for free. But just remember that if you're looking at it that way, then you are the commodity. You're the one having to spend the time doing it. And how much do you really value your time? But it's good to understand these things, and they don't have to be mutually exclusive. So you may do, put some content out there, some blogs and articles as a case in point. But you may well need to balance that with some form of pay-per-click, or if not, have a very good strategic plan for directly reaching out to your prospects. And again, we'll be talking about that a lot more tomorrow. Just in a second, have a quick refresh of what I plan to cover next. Yes, so in terms of this, now I'm going to give you some examples of potential clients, which again may provoke some thoughts, okay? And these obviously are people who followed our advice, they're hardworking entrepreneurs, so I'll share that with you. So let's take this lovely lady here, a lady called Lorna Leonard. Now, she's an interim financial director, and through a very campaign we put together for her, within the first 10 days, she did pick up a 30K contract, so that's in pounds, or 40K in dollars. Now, this lady, the reason I'm particularly touching on this, she is a real introvert. In fact, you probably see from this shot, she actually doesn't really like the camera very much either. So this, what we're going to be describing in particular tomorrow, is particularly good for people who are less outward-going or hate asking for the deal, okay? Or perhaps not so strong on the social engagement. Okay, so we'll cover a lot of this tomorrow, but what I'm describing definitely works for introverts as well. It is also important to understand with most marketing, it really is about the snowball effect. It's about giving campaigns time to kick out, to work their way through and compound out. So like a snowball to start with, it will be quite slow and very small in size. So it goes down the hill, build up momentum and speed, okay, until eventually it gets to the flat and then it stops, okay? So it's about working on what you can put behind that snowball to build the momentum up. Now, if you're using social media to reach out to people, sometimes it's a slightly slower burn. These days, actually, with the methodologies we're teaching or showing you tomorrow, it doesn't need to be a slow burn at all, but I'm going to be explaining a lot about tomorrow. With pay-per-click, it tends to be a lot more immediate, but the problem is the moment you switch if your pages are not well optimized on your site, or the moment you switch that off, literally everything stops overnight, okay? So you're not really building any long-term collateral with that, other than perhaps building up your prospect database, which of course is really important, but you're relying then on people actually opting in. Again, we'll be going into much more detail on this tomorrow. So another example here, just again to make you think. Now, funny enough, Michael's phoned me today, actually. He rang me as a very keen support of the organisation. We ran a campaign a while back for him, and within, in his particular case, his average value of sale was a bit over £50,000 because he works with very high-end levels, typically directors of PLCs, sometimes the CEO, and basically in his case, a slower burn because obviously people had gatekeepers around them, they had to try and get through. But over a 10-month period, he got a 7 times return on investment. Now, to his, so if anyone knows Michael, and if you joined us on a live stream a few weeks ago, Michael is about the smoothest person you wish to meet. He could literally, without you being aware of it, sell snow to Eskimos. And that's funny enough, it's not because of Burton he tries to sell. It's because he's so charming, he's so focused around what the client wants. People will actually almost gladly part with their money. But he's also got a very good reputation in the space he actually operates in. It's about presenting you as being the expert. Now, this is another example here. Now, this is a very high average value of sale. So in this case, their product for prospects or foundation products, not product for prospects, more their foundation products, are really is a starting point of £200,000 or £300,000. So it's not a £5 or £10 or a £10,000 sale. It's a £200,000 or £300,000 part to it. But that may lead into a sale then, which is 3 to 5 million. Okay. Now the lead time on that, as you'd expect, is long. And because they're dealing a lot with banks, it requires multiple sign-off, not just by one, but it'll be typically at least 4 or 5 people at director level, or at minimum of heads of department. So it might be the head of IT, head of compliance, it might be the head of technology. If, for example, a bank can't risk their cash machines going down. And typically, it requires sign-off by the CEO of the bank as well. because this would be such a big decision and have such a big impact. If it worked really well, it'd also have a very severe impact if things went wrong. And we had great pleasure working with them. Their company is growing phenomenally. It was 16 people 2 years ago. Last year it was 60. And when I last spoke to them, I think it was getting closer to 100 or so. So that's Adam Molson from Form 3 with Alex, who's working with us very closely at the time. And sort of moving on a little bit from there, what we're going to do is just share one other point. We have a bit of a natural break, so be ready, Muriel, again in just a second. No pressure. But we talk a lot about the hamster wheel. But of course, Albert Einstein, who said this, I think about 100 years ago, I think he was born about 130 years ago. So the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We all know that doesn't happen. Now, how many times do we have to have a recession and for the unexpected to happen? And, we still catch it all out. Now, I must admit, with this pandemic, I think it's been a lot more severe than everyone had expected. We just never expect to be like this. But at least the lockdown is easing a little bit, albeit some of the news day isn't quite so good. But anyway, the main thing is that we need about putting strategies in place to be able to move things forward. And what the point I just make there is all the people referred to have taken action. They've looked outside of themselves, what they should do on focusing on the needs of the customer and taking things from there. So, Muriel, a bit of a natural break. What would you like to feedback? What comments would you like to bring up?
Yeah, okay. Gary's commented about cash management.
Yeah. So following COVID lockdown, the keys to survival, there ought to be in your business plan, cash management, good credit control. A new law is imminent promoting debtors charter. Actually, if you have got some information, what do you mean by the debtors charter? This is something I'm not so familiar with, actually. So, and Gary, what's your which Gary are we talking about here, Muriel?
I will tell you in just a moment. It is.
Yeah, Gary. If
Gary Pettit.
Okay, Gary, if you're doing it through the group, can you just put your name in there so we know who you are, if that's all right? Give us a bit more information on that a little bit later on. I'd love to pick up on you on that. On the first day, we did talk about bounce back loans as well. Now, we are going to be talking about your finance and your numbers a bit later on. So it will time very well with that. But thank you very much. If you could just feedback on that, would be great. What next, Muriel?
Renato made a comment when you were talking about the BMW.
Right.
Which I thought was quite relevant.
Now that's interesting. So I suppose Renato, even though don't be able to tell me, but I'm assuming it's because they were trying to compete with Ford and Vauxhall and some of these other makes. And yes, that's really interesting. So it devalued the core proposition. I don't know exactly what happened since on that. If you've got some explanation, Renato, drop that into the chat. And Len's saying, regarding a free product, have you any thoughts on what draws interest most? Book, ebook, short, video courses, checklist, challenge, quiz, or something else? The bottom line is, I think you have to have almost a portfolio of free products, actually. So in our particular case, we got a 12-pillar diagnostic questionnaire, which people can take part in free of charge. We got 3 very high-value videos that we share, which are available via our website under the TV video section. We've got a downloadable ebook. We also sell the book, the paper-based version of the book at fairly nominal cost. And again, a checklist, challenges, quizzes. It also depends an awful lot on your market. What I would say is that we're quite serial marketers out there. People get bored with the same offer all the time. So quite often you have to have a portfolio of free products, and you may have something which you promote at that particular point in time, which then leads to a much more detailed conversation. And then you may offer something else which you've already created, okay? And in fact, what we've done this week effectively is created a short course as part of this challenge. And again, it ties in about giving value as well. Len, you're a very smart lady, actually. I'd love to have a conversation with you afterwards, so thanks very much for sharing that.
And Gary's also mentioned about he gives a free consultation
to
his clients.
All right, good, excellent. Well, Gary, thanks for sharing that. No doubt if you could give some answer on the other point a bit earlier on that we talked about, that'd be fantastic. I'm sure everyone would really appreciate that. Muriel, any other comments or feedback? Like?
Just scrolling down. I don't think so for now.
Okay, right.
Actually, sorry. Can I just say, Gary has put this up here.
Yeah. Who's making contract termination clause on solvency? Right, that's really interesting. Right, that's
that might be helpful.
Right, that's really interesting. I wasn't aware of that, Gary. We'll have to speak about that afterwards. Actually, I'd love to have a conversation with you. Yeah. So okay, let's move on now. So I'm just going to grab this one here, if that's all right. Right. So who's this saying here? For coaches or people selling info products or services, you need to offer something to people in all modalities. You'd like to serve some people for reading. Again, that's a really good point. I don't know who said that. Okay, but if you want to identify yourself, that'd be brilliant. Okay, so just drop your names in, please, guys and girls. That's in the group. It's not a problem on the page.
Yeah, that's come from Marja.
Marja, okay. Marja, thank you. It's a really good point. And Alex R, BMW sells the Series 3 to create brand desirability, make it attainable. That's lovely. Thank you, Alex. That's really good. Lovely. Alan, thank you very much. What is the free product? My product's an ebook, so I have an offer to offer a free value proposition content. Alan, I 100% agree with that. What I would say is, going back to what I said earlier on, have a balanced portfolio of free products. The trouble with free products at the moment, there is a huge amount of content shared for free. And of course, one of the biggest competitors out there is YouTube, okay, because everything is available for free on YouTube. So it's about having a balanced portfolio of free products where you can obviously start off with one or two, but keep on building on it, okay? A really good thing to do. Yeah, lovely. Okay, thanks, Aled. That's brilliant.
Okay, I think we've caught up.
Okay, lovely. So if anyone feels their point's been missed, by the way, which is quite possible because, in fact, yesterday there was so many comments coming through, we were finding it difficult to keep up with them. If necessary, repeat your points a bit later on and just mention we perhaps missed you, and then we will try and come back to you. Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on then. Okay, so the next part really is about your board, your leaders and teams. Okay, now, if you're a medium-sized bit, let's say you're a company employing 20, 30, 50 people. By the time you get to that stage, you've probably got 2 or 3 other board-level directors in your business at that point in time. You may not have, but typically that's quite common. If you're much smaller than that, it may just be you, or you may have a fellow co-director you work with. And in which case, it's very important you have a team of people around you to back you up as well. And equally, if you're a director of a larger company, it may well be you may feel that you can't confide in your peers, okay? It may be that there's some things, for example, being a director of a company can be a very lonely place. And it may be that you don't feel you can discuss some certain things that you're feeling or certain challenges you're facing because of perhaps the fear of feeling weak in some shape or form, or demonstrating perhaps a lack of expertise or knowledge. What we feel is very important is you actually have your own virtual board. Okay, now we obviously can offer that as part of the service, as you would expect. But if you don't have those type of resources, to tap into something like that, then find people who can back you up. Now, again, typically they won't be family. It may not even be friends. Okay. And it's about trying to find people who themselves are very aspirational, lots of values shared, who care passionately about your success and the other way around, and also think about how you can help them. They can become, a sense, part of your virtual board. Okay. Now, like any orchestra, you have to have a conductor, and the best football players have coaches. Okay. So very, very important. Who can you put in around you to help you? And certainly, you need to have that with any business, however small you are. I have 2 or 3 people I consult with regularly, and they've all got huge amounts of value to share. And I'm very grateful for their contribution to Business Growth Bureau. In fact, we're in the process of setting up an advisory board with this very much in mind. And we did that also with focus groups as well. Now, with what we class as online workshops or breakthrough boardrooms, typically we were doing these as more physical events, but obviously at the moment it's not possible to do that. that you typically have one chairperson being run under Chatham House rules, and it'd be discuss issues or opportunities, whether it's personal or business. And in effect, what you'd agree is a bit of an action plan, and that in effect, that group would also become your accountability group as well. And when I'm speaking with someone, especially if they're more coaching or mentoring me, I actually quite like them to give me a little bit of a hard time, because I don't want them just to tell me what I want to hear, because at the end of the day, I don't grow as a person. So it's just worth bearing that in mind. Of course, we can help through coaching, mentoring, as you'd expect. And of course, confidentiality rules apply. We've got a closed Facebook group. And obviously, that's what's happening here to a degree this week. And we've got an online portal. I'm not planning to, it's not about talking about us this week. It's about just giving you some thoughts and insights. And moving on a little bit more onto your systems. It's amazing, actually, we've got so lots of content to share. So I'm trying to keep up the pace, as it were. Your systems. Now, we talked about Michael Gerber yesterday and the E-Myth. Michael Gerber's created a number of other books, and I've bought into some of his programs over time. Really, really good. Okay. Now, when you're a very small business, a one-person company or 2 or 3 people, you can probably get away with a lot of your systems not being automated or computerized. But even then, I would urge you to think about what can you put online. So, for example, look at Dropbox or Google Drive. Look at Evernote as a way of storing all your documents electronically. For example, all our invoices, everything that's important, we scan and it goes into Evernote, okay? And it OCRs it as it goes in. And we've got always that point of reference. So no longer have we got these massive box files anywhere. They're actually stored digitally, okay? Also look at your internal processes. For example, we found 2 years ago, we were getting to a pinch point where we couldn't grow and scale the business without our costs disproportionately increasing. And that's typically a sign that we probably should have started to put some additional systems in place to make sure that could happen. And if you can put good systems in place, that will really help you to scale and to grow. And effectively that become, the part that will help to drive things through. Okay, now, we obviously normally spend a lot more time on this, but it's just worth factoring that in. So in fact, look at your social selling blueprint we talked about, your front office systems, your back office systems, your billing and accounting systems, your e-commerce systems. Those are all areas you need to look at within your business. Now, who was the best person as an example that we can think of? There's a great film actually called The Founder. It's on Netflix, or it was on Netflix, I think it still is, and it's about the McDonald brothers and Raymond Kroc. Okay, and just as an interesting point, bit of a question for you actually: what is McDonald's known for? Is its primary focus as a fast food business, or is it something else? Now, those of you who've seen The Founder will actually probably know the answer to that. If you do know it, type it in the chat. Make sure you put your name in so we know who you are. I'd be really interested to know. But Raymond Kroc, interesting enough, was the person that largely encouraged the McDonald's brothers to scale. The McDonald's brothers created fantastic systems, but what they didn't really know was how to scale. Okay, and Raymond Kroc knew how to scale. Okay, so very interesting one. Any feedback on that? Just do drop it in. Okay, your finance, know your numbers. Now, obviously, we've got a couple of people here today, or several people here today, Keith Lawrence and Gary and a few others here today who clearly know about their onions over all this good stuff. And it's really important about knowing your numbers. Now, I'm going to state some obvious things here, and I'm going to also state something which is less obvious, okay? So clearly, you should have very strong management systems. Your invoice and billing needs to be in top form. You need to keep very tight control of your cash flow, as you would expect, and make sure your payment terms are clear. You need to make sure you're well funded. We talked about on Monday about bounce back loans and all other forms of finance. If you do need to raise some money for your business for growth, or if, for example, you need to make sure you can stabilize your business so that you've got money in the bank to see you through, then I won't go to any detail on this again because it was covered on Monday and you can listen to the recording. But fundamentally, the normal underwriting criteria is much more relaxed. Banks are backed by 100% guarantee from the government, and 0% interest for the first year. And I understand there's no payments to pay in the first year, and after that's only 2.5% as an interest rate after that. Okay, so it's worth just looking at that. Make sure your business has got money in the bank, because at the end of the day, cash flow is king. We're in very unpredictable times at the moment. Do look outwards, do invest in business to help you to grow, okay? But at the same time, make sure you've got money in the bank, okay? Because, we all want to see businesses be successful. Now, the thing I was going to just state, actually, which I haven't talked about before, unless you've joined us on one of the video recordings I've made, and that is creating what I class as 60-day rolling cash flow forecast, okay? Now, accountants very seldom talk about this. In fact, even a lot of management accountants don't really talk about this, okay? And what I mean by a 6-day rolling cash flow forecast is what you do is you look at your cash in your business and you predict 60 days ahead, and you literally adjust that every day. Now, if you keep on top of it, even for a business which is turning over £3-5 million, keep on top of that, probably spend 30 minutes a day repositioning it, and you can find you unlock money in your bank. And a bit of a story, about 10-12 years ago, again, I thought this other business I was involved with was going to run out of money. And what we found, we suddenly realized that, cracking, we need to, about 50,000 short this month. What are we going to do? And we realized by just looking very carefully at our cash flow and just a few things around, I'm not talking about paying things on 90 days or anything like that, but what we were able to do is to find that £50,000, and we didn't even need to go to the bank for that. Okay, so rolling cash flow forecasts, don't underestimate the importance of that. Every business, especially if you're a real micro business where you're below the VAT threshold and you're largely counting the money that's in your bank, and you on cash accounting maybe a bit less important. But if you're a business which is turning over 100, 200,000 a year upwards, and probably that's several million a year upwards, you should really be having a rolling cash flow forecast. The other thing is prepare for the unexpected. So in fact, this was Alex. He sent it to me as soon as he touched down in Italy. He took one of the last few flights going to Italy before COVID really was known about. And look at this flight. I think it only got about 10, 12 people booked on it, and never seen a flight like it. And of course, Alex came back 2 or 3 weeks later, or 10 days later, actually. And of course, lockdown happened shortly afterwards. So he was one of the last few people to go to Italy before things started to shut down. But just a really good case in point, prepare for the unexpected, make sure you can survive the worst, and prepare for the worst, but always hope for the best. Now, in terms of your assets and your intellectual property, now under this, look at what's tangible and untangible, your trademarks and patents, your data, your methodologies and systems, your awards, and innovation. Now, your innovation is a surprise one here, okay? And I'm going to tell you another little story just to bring a bit of semblance. Yesterday, I talked about, in the coaching space, there's a lot of plagiarism that goes on, okay? Now, I'm not saying, the vast majority of coaches are very honest people, and I love them to bits, and indeed many of our coaches, trainers, mentors, consultants are our clients of ours, okay? But quite often it's very innocent. And maybe someone says something, they forget who said it, and it goes into the presentation, it goes into the course. Now, you'll notice yesterday, we talked a lot about Neil Lawton. We gave him credit for the fact he very kindly offered to share what he developed as part of yesterday's program, okay? But I'm talking about another example here, where basically we were having some private conversations with a PLC. We had 3 meetings. I drove up to York 3 times over 6 months, left about 4 or 5 in the morning, seemed to want to work with us, and then suddenly it went very quiet. Next thing I knew, this PLC had ripped off all our ideas, hired a room in the House of Parliament, and did some big launch, okay? Now, as you can imagine, I was pretty upset. And but at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is something which was unprotectable. We come up with some concepts, ideas. They'd sign a non-disclosure agreement. In reality, it didn't matter. It's basically boiled down to who's got the biggest lawyers. At the end of the day, it just wasn't worth pursuing. Strangely enough, it did us a bit of a favor, okay? Because what happened is they helped to give the market credibility on the product that we were looking to introduce. And what they hadn't been part of was a 6 months worth of innovation that gone in since. So by the time we released our product and service, it actually made their proposition look quite inferior. Okay, so what I'm just saying is, keep on innovating, stay ahead. There's lots of things which are unprotectable, but that is a good way of protecting your intellectual property. Okay, and if you want to see that interview, that actually is on our website. And if you go to, I haven't got it handy, but if you go to the TV video section of our website and choose TV/interviews, you'll see something there which is about 12 pillars. And there's an interview there with Steve Highland. I think you'll find that really interesting, actually. So do tap into that. So in a second. And then what we're talking about is your scalability. Now, your scalability, again, this goes back to the initial question, is your business bigger than just you? Okay. Now, you may want to grow your business. It may be quite appropriate to bring in associates and partners, and that may be a really good part of your strategy. In other cases, it may be a case you need to raise finance, equity finance. You may have a whole team of people you want to bring around you. You've got a business model which is looking to really scale. Again, that's important, okay? And then look at your glass ceilings, the invisible glass ceilings you might hit, where you may hit barriers for growth. And also look at what is your breakability factor, okay? For example, obviously we know about COVID. Well, a byproduct of that was for a while, there was a lot of demands on the internet, so much so that I think the European Union asked people like Netflix and others to actually reduce their bandwidth. They were pushing video content out. So, for example, if you're on the high definition service with Netflix, they were asking people to do it, I think 4K service, they're asking to drop it down to high definition for a while at certain peak times. Because the reason being is, although the internet is pretty sound, it was causing bottlenecks. And obviously, if you've got a factory or an office at the end of a line, and you've got a lot of people consuming a lot of content, then of course that can affect the stability. And obviously, these other things like come along, like cyber attacks. You know, thank God there's nothing that's ever been big enough to actually cause a major worldwide issue, other than for perhaps a few hours or a few minutes. But you know, just prepare for the unexpected, and that'll make you a much more resilient business. Now, we've covered a lot of ground in that time, so I'm pleased to say we're not going to stick to time, but we're hopefully within a few minutes of it. We've already talked about this already, and you know, here we are here to support you and your business growth. It is all about you know, being here for you when the chips are down as well. Hence, we do all these things for free. But also, if you really want to take your business onto another level, of course, we're here to support you in that. Now, we'll be coming on to the prize and competition in just a moment. So today is, again, a £20 Amazon voucher up for grabs. And also, we're showing a little bit more about next steps in terms of competition, and go from there. But Muriel, some feedback from a few of our lovely guests on the place.
Yes, Renato very patiently, bless him, repeated his comment about the Einstein slide.
Yes. So yes, thank you very much. Yeah, okay, thanks, Renato. What else have we got there?
This has come from Daniel.
Lovely. Which is most important? Being authentic. Which most important? Content outcome after buying a service, or the company status, website, assets, packaging, product? I guess the latter. How to focus on the former. Okay. Okay. Again, we'll be going into a little bit more detail on this tomorrow, Daniel. But at the end of the day, you know, you do need to make sure you've got really good assets in your business. But if I went back to the scenario with Michael Romling, even to this day, Michael Romling doesn't have a website, okay? In fact, he hasn't even created a massive amount of content. However, he did engage our services for a while, and we did a lot of direct outreach for him. We also made sure his LinkedIn profile was very well optimized as well. And that in itself, together with the other activities he was doing through referrals and everything else around it, has helped him to be who he is today. So putting content out there is really good. I encourage people to do it. Indeed, we do lots of it. What I would say is a lot of it can be quite a slow burn. Typically with social media platforms, you have to pay to play, okay? And LinkedIn is great if you want to put content out there, but typically it is about being a lot more proactive and having a very direct approach. So always be looking outwards, always be speaking to potential customers. Remember, everything starts off with a conversation. That's a crucial thing. The content can be a slow burn, could be a good way to get you there. Your company website could be important, your assets, but that sometimes is a bit less important, okay? But it's a deep conversation which we might need to take offline. So
Okay, this has come from Marja. Very interesting. I'm not sure I totally understand it. Possibly you do.
So Muriel, what's Muriel's Marge saying there, Muriel?
Very useful for all entrepreneurs is doing the Gallup BP10. It measures your entrepreneurial zest. Then based on that, find yourself a board of people who cover your blind spots. Is really very helpful.
Yeah, no, I don't know that one so much. But what I would say is there's also a very simple product you can use as well, which is very helpful, which is by, there's something called Talent Dynamics, which is for typically more for working with your employees and getting the best out of them or leaders. And you've got, sorry, get that right. There's Talent Dynamics and, God, I forgot the other one. Anyway, they're both related to each other, okay? And one is very good for working and helping people with entrepreneurs, i.e. what directors to put in around you to fill in those blind spots. The Talent Dynamics part of it is particularly good for helping with employees. Effectively, it's the same test, but the report comes out differently to suit the person. And I would 100% agree with you. It is about having a board of people, and that's exactly what we've done internally. I've got several people who support me and mentor me, which is very helpful. But also, you know, we use focus groups and advisory boards as well as part of this mix. So it's just worth factoring that in. Other things, Muriel?
Yeah, I think lots of comments to say the Founder is a wonderful film. In fact, I've made a note, so I'm going to try and watch it. It looks like everyone seems to be saying real estate, land regarding McDonald's.
Yeah, now it's interesting. Actually, Dan, you must have seen the film. Okay. Now, I don't know whether the answer is still the same. Okay. Because the film was obviously talking about the McDonald's family and Raymond Kroc then. But what came out was that actually it's a property business. They make a vast amount of their money from property. If you think about it, the vast majority of their outlets are actually rented from McDonald's. And so they've become massive landlords. David, thank you for that as well. So there's several people who know the answer on that.
Yeah, and Keith Lawrence as well.
There we go.
Company is a property company.
Keith, I would expect you to know, and of course, no surprises on that one. Okay, so any other points we want to pick on, particularly, Muriel? Yeah, sorry, thank you. Len's just saying you're 100% right. I don't know why I got mental block. It's Talent Dynamics and Wealth Dynamics. Talent Dynamics is more for working with their employees. Wealth Dynamics is more for the entrepreneurs, okay? Interesting enough, you're a star. Well, in Wealth Dynamics terms, I'm a mechanics cross creator, but that probably doesn't surprise you. And so, great, thank you very much. Okay.
Sorry, here's quite a funny one.
Sorry, Neil, I've been able to try.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay. Okay, so
sorry, just share this one, Rupert. Somebody secured a 50k bounce back loan and promptly spent it on a new
car. Well, we talked about bad money versus good money.
Oh dear.
And that's an example of really using your money very inappropriately. Okay. And what I would say, bounce back loans are great for investing in essential equipment in your office. Also looking at things like your marketing, making sure that you can trade your way out of this current situation. So one of the things that people quite often try and save money on is marketing and getting out there and getting their message out there. And typically what happens, that puts your business in a weaker position in 3 months' time than you are now. Okay, so it's just worth bearing in mind. And also I'd probably say keep some money back. If you've got business expensive forms of borrowing, then use some of that money for bank loan to try and pay off your very expensive borrowing, but keep money in the bank as well. So spend it on marketing, the assets which are going to create wealth, but not cars, okay? Cars generally are not needed. Just make sure you use your money very wisely. Okay, so, right. Okay, now again, if you've got problems with comments, guys, it may be at your local end on your laptop if you're, maybe your processor can't keep up with what's going on as well. Right, I think what we better do in fairness, everyone, we'll have the prize draw, okay, and just deal with a couple of final slides, and then if anyone's got some questions at the end they'd like to cover off. And now a quick reminder for Friday, this is the big prize, okay? We will ask you to complete in real time a questionnaire. It will only take 3 or 4 minutes to complete. Everyone will be given the same chance, same opportunity. And it'll be very straightforward, actually, even if you don't know the answers to a couple of them. You've got like, most of them it's multiple choice, or virtually all the questions multiple choice. So you've got like, on most of the questions, if you're not 100% sure, you've got like a 1 in 2, 1 in 4 chance of getting it right. But what I would say, if you want to dramatically increase your chances of winning, either make sure you attend all these live streams or watch the recordings, make lots of notes, and obviously one person is going to win this prize, okay? We're going to have 2 run-up prizes as well. One is the second prize, the run-up prize, which will be a £50 Amazon voucher, is that we will look at the stats across our system and see who's, out of all those people who've attended all the days, if they've not attended all the days, you've watched the recording and you've opted in the right way, which is the way I've described by the video message I sent you this morning, then if the people have taken part in most of those, but also if in doubt there's a number of people who've done the same, we'll have a tiebreaker question there and someone will win the £50, okay? And then there's another £50 Amazon voucher, which, to be frank, I'm going to make up on the day. Okay, someone probably will be looking at things like engagement, who's been the most engaged here, who's shared the most value, who's been looking to help and support others. I suspect that will be the runner-up prize. So be ready for Friday, okay? Tomorrow's going to be, there's going to be lots of good preparation around that. So I've already explained this part now. Obviously, terms and conditions do have to apply, and naturally, our decision has to be final. We're going to make sure it's a level playing field. So if there's any doubt or I feel compromised because it's someone I know, I'm asked someone to help me with it, that we will make sure it's a level playing field. So tomorrow is about the social selling blueprint for sales success, and there'll be a LinkedIn bonus session. Okay, and LinkedIn is, we will talk about other social media platforms as well, but LinkedIn, the average person on LinkedIn, for example, tends to earn way above the national average wage, and you tend to get through to a lot of decision makers on LinkedIn. And at the moment, because of lockdown, ironically enough, and the fact a lot of people working from home, the engagement rates are very, very high, so just worth doing. So just make sure when you sign up tomorrow, you come in via the link I've shared you again today, choose the appropriate day, and so our system can record you've taken part, okay? And what we're going to be covering as part of that is why knowing your market is so vital to sales success, how to grow your business with no expensive pay-per-click, how to build or destroy the currency of trust. That's really important, this whole thing around trust. Your perfect lead generation, prospect nurturing, and sales optimization systems. We'll go into detail how to go about that. And we'll also be explaining how to get high-value clients. Okay, right, and now tomorrow, just a quick reminder as well, because we'll have people potentially join us from our normal live streams, because normally our live streams are every Thursday at 5 o'clock and they're free. Now, it is possible if you register for live streams as well as the challenge, okay, that you'll get duplicate reminders. I'm sorry about that. It's very difficult for us to deal with, okay, especially for one session. Okay, so tomorrow, if you do get some duplicates, bear with us. But if you register for the challenge, use the links which are to do with the challenge, not to do with the live stream. So I'll stress that again, use the links to do with the challenge, not the live stream, and keep a note of this particular URL here. Just give me a second. Give me a minute, just trying to find it to make sure you've got the right one. Live streams, just trying to find it. Oh, here we go. No, it's not. Sorry, that isn't the right one. Muriel, you've got a note of it there. It's God, I've forgotten what it is.
Which one do you want, Rupert?
Yeah, this is the one I want. Sorry, it's this one here. Can you please, everyone, make a note of that link? Okay, so it's that link you need to use there. businessgrowth.com/challenge-confirmation/. That's what you need to use tomorrow. That's log in. And if you want to access the recordings, just log in there so we can track them. And also do the same one for Friday. Just as I'll leave that on the screen for a minute or so. Now, what we're going to do is do, I think we're ready to do the next part. And of course, you've got access to the group, which we've already covered. And now it's time for the prize. So now the only thing is, I just want to make sure we're being fair over this prize, because we've talked about this a lot already. So I'm just conscious about fairness. Okay, I think it'd be fair anyway. We talked about McDonald's brothers. Who was the person that actually got involved with the McDonald's brothers and actually helped to scale the business I referred to earlier on? The first person that comes up with the right answer is the winner. Okay, so type that in the chat, but make sure you put your first name and last name in there, because last time around I gave someone a bit of the benefit of the doubt because they actually didn't put their name in. But put your first name and last name there. Possibly also put the channel like Facebook or YouTube in there too, because I think YouTube is about 20 seconds behind Facebook, so we might need to try and adjust that a little bit. Or Miro, we may need to bring you in as the umpire to make sure, because we can't necessarily go by the timing exactly in this feed. Okay. So guys, it's all open to you now. I won't give you the answer straight away because Miro's going to need to do a bit of due diligence on her side as well. So, okay, we can see some of the replies coming through. Okay, so keep on putting the comments in. Miro, don't tell me at this point who might have got the right answer and first. Okay, but compare Facebook and YouTube, okay, and factor in a 20-second delay for YouTube.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, good luck with that one. Okay, so
Thank you.
okay, just make sure we've got a level playing field. Okay, good. Okay. Right, we can still see people putting their comments in. So keep those comments coming. Right, okay. So I've got an idea who I think it might be, but someone rather stupidly hasn't put their name in, so I don't know who you are. Right, okay. So, Miro, have we come to a drum roll yet?
No, this is going to take a while, Rupert. I actually think I know who it should be. Right.
I mean, my feed is telling me if this is correct. But the person hasn't put their name in, so I don't know who they are. I think because I made it clear that someone did need to put their name in, perhaps we should disallow that one. If it's Facebook, I can see Lucy Hampton, but can you just verify that, Miro?
Yeah, I agree. I've got Lucy down as the winner.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we're being fair there, aren't we? Okay, so Lucy, well done. You're the winner of the £20 Amazon voucher. So Lucy, if you could very kindly send your Miro an email, so miro@businessgrowthbureau.com. Send Miro an email with your details. In particular, can you make it clear to Miro your email address you use for Amazon, okay? Because what we don't want to do is to send any voucher to the wrong email address, because I'm not sure, well, it probably just won't get to you. I don't want to take a chance. Okay, so I think we've covered everything today. Hopefully you've all enjoyed it. Thank you very much for joining in. Absolutely delighted with your feedback and comments. Really appreciate the interactivity. And we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 4:55, give or take. Okay, see you tomorrow, 4:55.
Cheerio, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.